Shalom, and welcome to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul, your Biblical Hebrew podcast. Shalom and welcome to our Biblical Hebrew podcast. Today I would like to speak to you about Elisha and the bears. The story appears in the book of Kings 2, chapter 2. We shall read the relevant verses and then we shall develop a conversation around it, followed by sources. Kings 2, chapter 2, verse 23. Vaya'al misham bet el, meaning Elisha came from Jericho. Jericho is located 10 kilometers north from the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea, and its height is 250 meters under the face of the ocean. This is the lowest inhabited city in the world. Jericho. Please pay attention because Jericho is not just geographical place. Jericho is located westwards to the Jordan River, and Jericho has in its letters Yod, Resh, Yod, Chet, Vav, the three stem letters Yareach. Yareach, which means in Hebrew moon, but when we reposition the letters and we start with the letter Resh, Resh, Yod, Chet, the word is Reach, which means scent or smell. So please, let's take all of those manners into consideration. Elisha, Elijah's student, is rising from the lowest inhabited place on earth, named Jericho, which contains also the letters of the word moon in Hebrew, Yereach, and he is rising from Jericho, Bet El, the home or the house of God. Vehu ole vaderech. Please pay attention because there is no dot in the belly of the bed. Usually it should have been written baderech, in the way, but the Bible here says vaderech. There is no dot in the belly of the bed, meaning there is a lack of relation, lack of the covenant. ונערים קטנים יצאו מן העיר. And little children or little boys came out of the city. ויתקלסו בו, again, vo, and they mocked him. Grammatically, it should have been ויתקלסו בו. When there is happiness, we find the dot in the belly of the bed, like the Bible says, to read and to ponder about a book day and night, והגית בו יומם ולילה, and you shall ponder upon it day and night, והגית בו, and you shall ponder in it or upon it, bo, like the letter B in English. But here they are mocking him again. There is no dot in the belly of the bed. ויתקלסו vo. Again, there is no covenant, so they mock him. ויאמרו לו, and they told him, עלה קרח, עלה קרח. Rise up, go up, a bold man or a bald-headed man without hairs. If we're looking in the dimension of geography. Jericho is the lowest city in the world, under the sea level, 250 meters under the sea level. So, if a person leaves Jericho to any direction, he has to rise up from this valley, so to speak. So any person, in any case, even today, geographically, if we are visiting the city of Jericho, once we want to leave even for Jerusalem, we have to rise up from the bottom. So if we remember a few verses before this verse, Elisha was curing the water of Jericho. So he helped the people of Jericho. So he went to Jericho to help the people of Jericho. But now he leaves the place of Jericho, and in order to leave Jericho, a person has to rise up because Jericho is located at the bottom. So little boys or little children came out from the city and they mocked him. Vayitkalsu vo. Again, there is no dot in the letter bet. Vayomru lo. And they told him, rise up or go up, a bald-headed man. Bald, in Hebrew, a person who doesn't have hair on his head, is kereach. Kereach. Kof, resh, chet. Kereach. In the book of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria that his student wrote, Rabbi Chaim Vital, they explain this speech of the children to Elisha. They say that before he was Elisha, he was Korach. Again, Korach was the one who disputed the leadership of Aaron and Moses. Korach is written in 3 letters. Kof, Resh, Chet. Korach. Korach. And here we meet the same letters again. Kereach. Kereach. Kof, Resh, Chet. Bald-headed man. So the sages say that the children were mocking Elisha, rise up or go up, bald-headed man, because they were seeing something else. They saw that in former times, Elisha was Korach, the one who disputed the leadership of Aaron and Moses. And as a consequence, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed Korach and 250 of his community. And now the children were mocking him and saying, rise up, bald-headed man, rise up, bald-headed man, because how can you rise up from the Sheol, from the bottom of the earth, which is not just Jericho in this manner, but in former times, in the desert, you disputed Aaron and Moses' leadership, and the earth swallowed you and your community. And now, how can it be that the earth swallowed you, how can it be arising from the Sheol? How can it be? So as we see, the speech of the children is not random. Here, the sages take the speech of the children very seriously. And now we shall continue. Verse 24. Vayifen acharav vayir'im. And he turned behind him and he saw them. Vayekalelem b'shem Hashem. And he cursed them with the name of the Lord, with the name of the Tetragrammaton. ותצאנה 2 דובים, and then came forth 2 she-bears from the forest, ותבקענה מהם 42 ילדים, and they tore from them 42 children. Now, in order to understand what is written here, we have to look into the word bear in Hebrew, into the number of 42 in Hebrew, and to connect between them. The Hebrew word for bear is dov. Dov, dalet, bet. The value of the letter dalet is 4. The value of the letter bet is 2. Please pay attention. The word dov, bear in Hebrew, if we had to write the word in numbers, we could have written it by the following numbers. Instead of letter Daled, we would have written 4. And instead of the letter Bet, we would have written 2. So now we have the number of 42. Please pay attention to the parallel picture. And these 2 she-bears tore 42 children. The first chapter of the Bible, Genesis 1, is named by the sages Maaseh Bereshit. Maaseh is a deed or a tale or a story of Bereshit, how the whole creation descended from the source. Again, Maaseh Bereshit, the deed or the tale of creation, is reflecting how the whole creation descended from one source. Maaseh Bereshit. The word Maaseh, the tale, the deed, or the story, start with the letter Mem. Its value is 40. The word Bereshit start with the letter Bet. Its value is 2. So together, Maaseh Bereshit, the deed or the tale of creation, is reflected by the letters Mem, Bet, or the number 42, meaning the act of the creation to happen or to descend, to proceed from the one, from the source, is marked by the number 42. There is one day in the whole year when the whole creation returns to the one, and this is the Day of Atonement, Yom HaKippurim. Yom HaKippurim. In this day, the 10th day of the 7th month from spring, in this day, the whole creation turns its face to the Creator, to the One. This is why this day is called Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement or the Day of Forgiveness, because once we turn our face to the One, to the Source, to the Creator, we don't live in conflicts anymore, in struggles of power, stress, of depression. We just with the One. And from the perspective of the One, things look different and we are capable of forgiving. And this is a very sensitive idea to digest. And if you don't accept it, This is also right. There is a tradition in the Day of Atonement when people return to the source. They're only with the source, with their inner sovereign. Every person in himself assembles and discuss with the sovereign. So in this day, traditionally, there are no relations, physical relations between men and women, because in this day, everybody just turns inwards, not outwards for the body aspect. So traditionally, in this day, there are no, according to the tradition, Hebrew tradition, there are no physical relation between men and women, because also from physical relation between men and women, children can be born. And here is the insight of the sages. The sages are saying that those 42 children that the she-bears tear apart, they were conceived in the Day of Atonement. According to the tradition, this day, a person, as we said, supposed to go inwards, to be in a constant conversation with the source, with the sovereign. Some people are not doing it. And I don't speak here about the law so much, but the perception of the sages. And the perception is saying the following: instead of a person being with himself and being in a deep discussion with the inner sovereign, those people went out to experience life with a realm of bodies, and they conceived. And those 42 children that were mocking Elisha, they were conceived in the Day of Atonement, meaning in an opposite direction of the flow. The flow, as the Hebrew tradition tells us, is to go inwards. But their mothers were conceived in the Day of Atonement, meaning, and conceive is to go out. So those 42 children are reflecting an opposite tendency. Instead of going inwards to the inner sovereign and unite with the one, with the infinite, their mothers, by conceiving them in the Day of Atonement, went out of themselves. And as a response, few years later, those children were torn apart by two she-bears. So in a way, the sages are seeing here parallel mirrors. The bears, dove, which are marked by the numbers 42, are tearing apart, and the Hebrew verb for tear apart, baka, bet kof ein. The bears are splitting 42 children. So if we look into the hints or into the root of this story, we see the bear, which is reflected by the 42, splitting 42 children. And in a way, there is a lot of cure in this story, because the 42, the bear, is canceling basically the aspect of the 42 children which were conceived in the Day of Atonement. And by doing this, they are bringing those children to their source, to the infinite. So what was taken out from the source in the Day of Atonement, when everybody's supposed to assemble in themselves and to communicate to the One, those children that they were coming to the world in the opposite cause, in a way, the bears causing them to return to the source. And in a way, nothing has been lost. And there is another aspect. Those children who told Elisha, rise up, bald-headed man, meaning how can it be that you're coming from the Sheol and rising up? Those children, by speaking to Elisha those words, in a way reflecting their own situation, because according to the sages, the fact that a child is being conceived in the Day of Atonement is already a situation of the Sheol, of the grave, so to speak. And by mocking Elisha, they were mocking their bare existence. And in return, they got a reflection from Elisha, not directly, but indirectly. Because once Elisha cursed them with the name of the Lord, the 42 she-bears came and brought them up into their source. So those children were asking Elisha, how can it be that you, the bald-headed men, are rising from the Sheol, from being an aspect of Korach who disputed Aaron and Moses? How can it be that you're rising from the Sheol? How can it be? While they themselves were conceived in the most darkest moment, in the Day of Atonement. So when everything returns to the light, their mothers were conceived. This is darkness. Conceiving in the eyes of the sages is darkness, because the infinite has to cut itself and to come into a finite condition, a limited condition in time and space. The infinite has to be conceived in the womb of a woman, and for the infinite to be conceived in a woman is a very dark moment. And those children were asking or saying, rise up, old man, ale kereach, ale kereach. The one that the earth swallowed him, it's like a womb which is swallowing the potential of the light. You managed to rise up from this lower existence in the Sheol, and while turning this speech to Elisha, they were speaking about themselves. And this speech to Elisha caused him to curse words. And as response came 42 she-bears. And we have to remember that the term she-bears refers to time and space, to the whole creation. Trees, the animal, fishes in the ocean, everything which is coming from the source and appears here in multiplicity is a she. Whether it's trees, fruit, bushes, children, men, women, birds of the sky, stars, and so on. All of those details are considered to be a she for the spirit, for the source. So this is why the Bible here says shtaim dubim, not shnaim as masculine bears, but she bears, because the whole creation, what is going out, descending from the source, is a she. So the two she bears cancelling the 42 children, which are reflecting Maaseh Bereshit, the act of creation. And in another way, we can see the story is the following. If we take the 42 children plus the she-bears, which are 2, we get a volume of 44. 44 is the value of the word dam in Hebrew, which is blood in English, meaning the whole creation is something temporal. And when the temporal is being removed or being cancelled, we are left with a 1, because 44 plus 1 is 45, is the value of the word Adam, which is human or divine spirit. And I hope that this conversation was not too hard to follow, because as you notice, the longer those conversations are being talked, the deeper can we go. So wishing you all a beautiful day and wonderful week. Thank you for listening to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to hear more about a certain topic, just write us an email to hebrew@learnoutlive.com. We are always happy to hear from you. For more episodes, videos, and articles like this, please visit our website at hebrew.learnoutlive.com. We also would like to invite you to join our live classes. Just search for Online College of Biblical Hebrew on Facebook and start learning now with students from all over the world. Koltuv and Shalom.